Are we all one consciousness, the scientific evidence? What if that feeling of being a separate person, that little voice in your head you call you, is just an illusion? A trick of the mind, deeply ingrained by evolution, but ultimately not the whole picture. What if, instead of being one person among billions, you are actually a tiny sliver of a single universal mind? A cosmic consciousness that's experiencing reality through every life, in every place, all at once. It sounds like a premise from a trippy sci-fi movie or an ancient mystical text, but a philosophical idea that points in this direction, called panpsychism, is getting a serious second look. It doesn't offer easy answers, but it does force us to ask one of the biggest questions imaginable. What is consciousness really? For centuries, science has run on a pretty simple and powerful assumption. The universe is made of physical stuff, and that's the end of the story. This view, called materialism, has been wildly successful. It gave us rockets, medicine, and computers. But it has one giant gaping hole. It can't explain you. Not your body or your brain chemistry, but the feeling of what it's like to be you. Philosophers call this the hard problem of consciousness, and it's arguably the biggest mystery in science today. This puzzle is pushing some thinkers to wonder if we've had the whole thing backward all along. Section 1. The hard problem, a crack in the foundation of science. So, what is this hard problem? Well, scientists are getting incredibly good at mapping what the brain does. We can watch areas of the brain light up during a scan when someone falls in love, recognizes a friend, or struggles with a puzzle. We know which chemicals are flowing when you feel happy or sad. We can even trace the wiring of the 100 billion neurons inside your skull. This is known as the easy problem, though it's obviously anything but easy. But what we can't explain, not even a little bit, is how all that buzzing and zapping, all that physical stuff, creates a private, inner world. How does an objective universe of atoms and energy create the subjective experience of being alive? Physics and chemistry have nothing to say about the richness of your inner life, the unique sensation of seeing the color red, the smell of rain on hot asphalt, or the bittersweet ache of nostalgia. These personal experiences, sometimes called qualia, are the very heart of consciousness. Materialism just slams into a brick wall here. If you start with a universe made of unconscious particles, how do you get mind to suddenly pop out of it? At what point does a pile of unfeeling atoms suddenly start to feel? Just adding more complexity doesn't magically solve the problem. It's like trying to make a beautiful pot without any clay. You're missing the main ingredient. This fundamental roadblock is why a growing number of philosophers are dusting off a very old and very strange idea. Section 2. A radical solution, introducing panpsychism. The idea is called panpsychism. It comes from the Greek words pan, meaning all, and psyche, meaning soul or mind. And it proposes something pretty radical. What if consciousness isn't some special thing that appears only in brains, but is actually a fundamental built-in feature of the universe? In this view, consciousness isn't something that matter produces. It's what matter is. Now, this doesn't mean your desk is secretly pondering the meaning of life. It's more subtle than that. Panpsychism suggests that the basic building blocks of reality, the electrons and quarks that make up everything, have an incredibly simple, primitive form of experience. We assume a horse's consciousness is less complex than a human's, and a mouse's is less complex than a horse's. Panpsychism argues this dimming of the light doesn't just stop. It continues all the way down, so that for a particle, consciousness is just a faint, imperceptible flicker. As philosopher Philip Goff explains it, physics is fantastic at telling us what matter does. It describes properties like mass, charge, and spin. But it tells us nothing about the intrinsic nature of matter, what it is on the inside. Panpsychism proposes that the intrinsic nature of matter is consciousness. The beauty of this idea is that it makes the hard problem vanish. You no longer have to explain how you get mind from non-mind, because there's no such thing as truly non-mind to begin with. Consciousness was always part of the furniture of the universe, just like gravity. Section 3. The philosophical case and puzzling clues. To be crystal clear, there is no single experiment that proves panpsychism. Its main appeal is philosophical. It offers a way out of the dead end of materialism, which can't explain mind, and another idea called dualism, which says mind and matter are separate, but can't explain how they interact. That said, some findings in neuroscience are raising questions that make ideas like panpsychism seem less outlandish. For instance, major recent studies designed to test the leading scientific theories of consciousness, integrated information theory, IIT, and global neuronal workspace theory, GNWT, have returned mixed results. Neither theory came out a clear winner, showing that even our best mainstream models have a long way to go. One interesting clue from this research is that the core of conscious experience seems more tied to sensory areas in the back of the brain, while the prefrontal cortex, long thought to be the command center, is more involved in planning and reasoning. This hints at a separation between thinking and simply experiencing. Then there's the even more speculative world of quantum physics. Theories from Nobel laureate Roger Penrose and Stuart Hameroff suggest consciousness might be a quantum process happening in tiny structures inside our neurons. This idea is highly controversial and not accepted by most scientists, who argue the brain is too warm and wet for delicate quantum effects. But if consciousness were a quantum phenomenon, it would open up bizarre possibilities like quantum entanglement, where particles remain connected no matter how far apart they are. This could, in theory, provide a mechanism for a consciousness that isn't strictly confined to individual skulls. Section 4. The combination problem and intellectual honesty. Of course, panpsychism has its own colossal challenge, the combination problem. Philosopher David Chalmers put it best: if every little quark has a tiny bit of consciousness, how do they combine to create the single, rich, unified experience of being you? Why don't the trillions of micro-conscious atoms in a table create a single conscious table? And how do the rudimentary experiences of your brain's particles merge into the one you that's processing these words? As the pioneering psychologist William James wondered, if you have 100 separate feelings, you don't get one big 101st feeling. You just have 100 feelings, each one locked in its own world. This is the biggest hurdle for panpsychism, and there's currently no consensus on a solution. It's crucial to acknowledge that most scientists remain deeply skeptical of panpsychism, not just because it's hard to test, but because of this very problem and a general lack of evidence. Still, for some philosophers, its power to address the hard problem makes it a puzzle worth pursuing. Section 5. From panpsychism to one universal mind. If you follow the logic of panpsychism to its most extreme conclusion, you end up right back where we started. If consciousness is fundamental to all matter, and we're all made of the same matter, what does that really mean? It leads to the speculative concept of a one mind, or universal consciousness. The idea is that our individual minds aren't truly separate things. They're more like temporary whirlpools in a single vast ocean of consciousness. Your ego, that feeling of being a distinct self, is just a useful illusion, a survival tool built by evolution. But at the most fundamental level, the separation between you, me, and the rest of the universe might just melt away. It's a perspective that echoes many spiritual traditions that have taught for millennia that our sense of separation is an illusion, and that ultimate reality is one unified whole. From this viewpoint, empathy isn't just a nice social skill, it's a flicker of recognition. When you feel for someone else, you are, in a very real way, recognizing yourself in them. Because at the bottom layer of reality, you're both cut from the same conscious cloth. Conclusion. So, are we all one consciousness? The honest answer is, we don't know. Science is still sketching the map, and large parts of it are blank. Mainstream scientific work is focused on rigorously testing theories like IIT and GNWT within the brain, and every new experiment brings more questions. What is becoming clearer is that the old, simple story that the universe is just dead stuff doing dead stuff might not be the full story. It struggles to explain the simple fact that we are here, aware and experiencing it all. Panpsychism offers a wild, thought-provoking, and elegant alternative. It paints a picture of a universe that isn't an empty void with a few pockets of life, but a living cosmos that is fundamentally aware. It suggests the line between you and the universe is blurry, maybe even non-existent, and that the very same awareness that looks out through your eyes is woven into the fabric of the stars. What do you think? Is the self an illusion? Is panpsychism a brilliant solution, or a step too far? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this trip to the edge of science and philosophy, please like this video and subscribe for more deep dives into the biggest questions out there. Thanks for watching.